SpaceX's Starship booster number 9 gets a static fire test for the first time, as well as NASA's Artemis II crew gets a sneak peek at the craft that's going to take them around the moon and back. All this in this week's Space News. Hey everybody, it's Nick from the Orbital Alliance, and in this week's Space News, we're going to cover a couple of brand new topics, as well as some updates from last week's Space News. So if you've missed that one, be sure to check out the video that I'm going to leave a link to right up here at the top of the screen. But let's start with the most exciting news that we had this week. SpaceX, or Space Exploration Technologies, this is the company that Elon Musk runs, has actually initiated a static fire test of its Starship Super Heavy booster. This is number 9 and will be the successor to the one that they launched back in May, which blew up over the Gulf of Mexico. They're just test flights, and this is going to be the next model that they're going to be using in the test flight process, the prototypes that are going to hopefully send Starship around planet Earth and back so they can get a test and a feel for whether or not this whole launch system is going to work at all. So what's going to be happening here in the next couple of weeks and months is you're going to start seeing more tests, and they're going to stack the booster or the Starship on top of the booster, and you're actually start seeing more of those like fuel fills and other things that just to make sure everything's working. And then we'll see a number 2 attempt at doing an orbital launch. So things are getting exciting with SpaceX around here, but check out this footage as they do a static fire test on the launch stand with just the booster. Normally the Starship gets stacked on top of that booster, but in this case they just wanted to test the engines to make sure that they are all functioning, as well as the brand new sound dampening water suppression system that is underneath that they've installed. During the original test flight of Starship's prototype, it blew all this dirt and concrete, melted away and sent debris everywhere. It was a disaster, to be honest, and they had to rebuild that launch stand from the ground up, quite literally. So this is the newest version 2 edition, if you will, and this was their first test to see whether or not their launch stand and the concrete pad and the water suppression system is actually going to function using a real Starship Super Heavy booster. So this was big news for SpaceX, and hopefully there'll be even more news about when they're going to have that second orbital launch attempt coming very soon. And here's just one more tidbit for you about SpaceX. They actually launched 2 more rounds of Starlink satellites, which are helping to build their global constellation network to provide high-speed, reliable internet access to anyone in the world. Now, the first launch they sent this week had 22 of the version 2 satellites on them, and the second launch had 15 version 2 satellites on them. Currently, SpaceX has over 4,500 functioning Starlink satellites in their network, and that will continue to grow over time. And if you want to subscribe to Starlink, you can go to starlink.com and you get a subscription and a satellite dish, and you can have access to this network yourself, which is pretty cool. And if learning about that wasn't cool enough, you can actually see these Starlink satellites just after they launch, usually within the first couple of days, and they call them Starlink satellite trains. They look just like this, and I actually have several videos of these on the channel, so be sure to check those out so you can see exactly what they look like. Now, SpaceX continues to push the boundaries of launch cadence, as well as we were kind of talking about launching Starlink about once every week or so. But here at the Primal Space on X actually said, SpaceX have now launched 54 times in 2023. They average a launch every 4.06 days. That is blistering. Pretty impressive, SpaceX. You're definitely setting the bar high for every other commercial or government agency. That's never been done before, and that pace is only going to increase as people continue to contract SpaceX. That includes NASA, other governments, other local and commercial sector satellite companies. It's mind-boggling. So SpaceX, you're doing something right. Now let's shift gears to NASA really quick. Last week in our space news, we actually talked about how they were going to be doing a press conference this week explaining what progress has been made regarding the Artemis II mission. Now, that conference hasn't happened yet as I record this video, but they did make a post on X where they did give us a little bit of a sneak peek. So let's take a look. The official Kennedy Space Center account said, "First look, NASA's Artemis II crew visited Kennedy today to get their first look at the Orion spacecraft that will fly them around the moon." And there you see a picture of the 4 crew members who are going to be going in that craft behind them and doing a flyby around the moon, going behind it and coming back to Earth. So again, they're not landing on the surface. That'll be Artemis III, and this is the crew that's going to do it. Now you have to remember, this is a historic launch. These people are actually the first humans to go into lunar orbit since 1972. It's been a very long long time. And they not only carry the first people to do it, there's a lot of historic firsts within this group. Again, the first woman, the first African American, and the first international partner, a Canadian, who are actually going to be going into lunar orbit. So big deal, and I can't wait to hear what they have to say. So I'll be sure to update you guys next week based on what happens in the update conference. And lastly, we have yet another delay regarding NASA's Crew 7 launch. Last week we talked about the launch date being pushed back a little bit, and here we are again. NASA's commercial crew account on X saying teams with NASA and SpaceX are now targeting no earlier than 3:49 a.m. Eastern on Friday, August 25th, to launch Crew 7 to the International Space Station. As always, I'd rather than push it back a few days and make sure that the crew is safe rather than rush things and have a catastrophe on our hands. That's always the best way to go with space, and it just takes a little extra patience. So there you have it. That's the latest regarding Crew 7. Don't forget you can watch that on a live stream as you can see them launch humans into space in real time, which is always fun. It's kind of like a sporting event. So grab your popcorn and get ready for that stream on August 25th. And there you have it. That's your space news for the second week of August 2023. Don't forget to watch one of these SpaceX Starlink videos that I have here on the channel. And if you found today's news interesting, be sure to subscribe. I would appreciate it. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all on the other side.